What happens to a demigod of the Imperium when his fall is so complete, so absolute, that even damnation becomes a kind of resurrection? A question like that lingers in the cold spaces between stars, whispered by astropaths who dare not trace the source. It is a question soaked in perfume and blood, echoing from the shattered remains of a legion once held as the pinnacle of imperial perfection. Before the galaxy burned, before chaos claimed its most tragic artist, there was Fulgrim, the Phoenician, whose return now haunts the Imperium like a forgotten sin clawing its way back into reality. And if the stories are true, if his silken shadow has indeed slipped back into the material realm, then the Emperor's children may be gathering for a symphony the galaxy is not prepared to hear. They say the first signs were subtle warp storms twisting into shapes that resembled serpents of violet fire. The faint sound of distant music heard in ship corridors where no vox played. Sculptures found aboard derelict vessels carved from materials no sane artisan would touch. Wherever these omens appeared, Imperial patrols went missing soon after, their final distress signals dissolving into a scream that cut off abruptly, like the snapping of a string on a master-crafted instrument. For those who know the Phoenician's legacy, the pattern was unmistakable. Fulgrim moves again, and he is gathering the broken, the beautiful, the damned. Long before he became the Serpent God's chosen vessel, Fulgrim was a masterpiece in motion grace, intellect, and ambition woven into the flesh of a Primarch. Among his brothers, he stood as the avatar of perfection. His legion, the Emperor's children, mirrored his pursuit of excellence with fanatical devotion, standing alongside the Imperium's finest heroes during the Great Crusade. To many worlds, they were salvation wrapped in gold and purple. But to those who saw beyond the artistry, there was something fragile in their brilliance, something sharp, like glass waiting to crack. And when chaos whispered its promises, it found a legion already obsessed with the impossible task of becoming flawless. It began innocently, enough trophies taken from conquered foes, ritual duels to hone skill, art crafted to celebrate victory. But pride became hunger, and hunger became addiction. Their senses sharpened beyond mortal limits, seeking new thresholds of pleasure, pain, and experience. They carved their armor, their bodies, even their memories, chasing sensations that defied logic. The Horus Heresy merely accelerated what was already unfolding. A fall so catastrophic that not even the Emperor himself could have foreseen the depths into which Fulgrim and his sons would descend. What truly happened aboard the Lar Temple world remains the keystone of every whispered tale about Fulgrim's corruption. Some accounts claim he wielded a blade that breathed. Others swear he heard a voice that spoke in poetry and venom. In truth, both are correct, and the moment he lifted the accursed sword, something ancient coiled around his thoughts. The demon within the blade found fertile ground in a Primarch who already doubted his own perfection. It fed on his fear of inadequacy, his desire to transcend even the limits of godhood. When Fulgrim finally realized the truth, it was already too late. The demon had slipped into him like a lover in the dark, and the phoenix was left to burn from within. But that was 10,000 years ago. The Imperium tells itself that Fulgrim's fate is static, sealed, just another tragedy etched into the dark tapestry of its history. Yet the warp is never still, and chaos never releases what it has claimed. Survivors speak of a moment recent, terrifying, when a ripple of psychic anguish tore across the Eye of Terror. Something old awakened. Something beautiful and monstrous, reborn in coils of shimmering flesh and laughter that froze the soul. Fulgrim, now ascended fully into a demon Primarch of Slaanesh, shed the last fragments of the entity that once imprisoned him. He emerged not as a creature of divided identity, but as a single terrible being whose will is both artist and weapon. Across the galaxy, the Emperor's children stirred. For millennia they had wandered as fragmented warbands, decadent marauders chasing sonic ecstasy and unspeakable pursuits. They fought one another as often as their enemies, for each believed himself the true heir to Fulgrim's vision. But when the Phoenicians' presence returned, they felt it in their marrow, a call, intoxicating and irresistible. The broken legion began to drift toward a single point in space, drawn like moths to a flame. Reports of their gatherings reached the Inquisition too late to prevent the slaughter that followed. One of the earliest confirmations came from a rogue trader vessel that approached what it believed was an abandoned orbital palace. Near the edges of the eye, the ship's picked feeds transmitted a glimpse of something impossible, an immense structure sculpted from marble that pulsed like living skin, adorned with impossible architecture that rewrote itself in spirals of pink and gold. And at its heart, coiled around a throne of shimmering crystal, was a figure too majestic and horrifying to behold. The transmission ended abruptly as the crew began to scream, their eyes melting from their skulls. The trader vessel was later found drifting, its hull covered in carvings that resembled verses of a song written in a language no human tongue was meant to speak. As Fulgrim's presence spread, so too did the actions of his sons. Entire sectors reported sudden incursions of Emperor's children warbands, each attack executed with theatrical cruelty. They did not simply kill, they curated death, turning battlefields into macabre galleries. Sonic weaponry shattered cities with symphonic force, while their champions strutted through the carnage with an elegance that bordered on madness. To face them was not merely to fight, but to witness a performance, each clash of blades a movement in a horrifying opera. Yet deeper questions remain. Why return now, after 10,000 years? Is Fulgrim seeking revenge against his brothers? Is he preparing to strike at Terra once more? Or is his purpose far stranger, something shaped by the unknowable desires of a chaos god, whose realm blends ecstasy with oblivion? Rumors whisper of a project he has already begun, an artwork so vast it spans star systems, an endeavor powered by the tortured souls of entire worlds. Some believe Fulgrim intends to sculpt a weapon. Others claim he means to reshape reality itself into a masterpiece of sensation that only Slaanesh could comprehend. And in the shadows of these speculations stands a fear older than the Imperium, a demon primarch acting with purpose, clarity, and ambition is far more dangerous than when lost to madness. Even Fulgrim's former brothers feel the tremors of his return. Robut Guilliman, the avenging son restored to the Imperium, has received visions through the Emperor's silent presence, visions of a serpent coiled around a crown of shattered gold. The Adeptus Custodes have heightened their vigilance, warding the Imperial Palace with rites not used since the Siege of Terra. And somewhere in the deep corners of the galaxy, the remnants of the Third Legion loyalists, those few who abandoned their primarch before his fall, feel a chill in their souls. They know that Fulgrim does not forget betrayal, even if the betrayal was an attempt to save him. But perhaps the most disturbing omen came from a hidden shrine world where an ancient relic associated with Fulgrim was kept under stasis. When the Adeptus Mechanicus attendant approached it during a routine inspection, he found the containment field ruptured, not broken but dissolved, as if unmade by a force older than physics. In its place lay a single feather-white, immaculate, glimmering faintly with purple light. No one has been able to determine whether the feather signifies Fulgrim's blessing or his promise of destruction. And so the question remains, if Fulgrim truly walks the galaxy once more, what does he seek? Redemption twisted into corruption? Perfection beyond sanity? Or something far worse, something that even Slaanesh dares not reveal? The answer may lie in the whispers circulating among chaos cults, fragments of prophecy repeated by those driven mad with anticipation. They speak of a gathering symphony, a moment when Fulgrim will unveil his grand design to the galaxy. They claim the masterpiece is nearly complete, that he has shaped it in secret, that it only requires one final stroke, one final perfect act, and perhaps that moment is closer than anyone realizes. For even now, in the far reaches of the void, Imperial augurs detect anomalies converging toward a single unnamed star. Warp echoes spiral around it like threads of silk. Ships vanish upon approach. And those few psychers who have glimpsed the region describe a vision of a serpent made of light, dancing through a storm of violet fire. Something is gathering there, something vast, something live, something waiting. What the Imperium does not yet know is who Fulgrim has summoned to witness its birth. The star at the edge of the galaxy had no name in Imperial records, only a forgotten designation etched into half-erased astrocarts. But now it pulsed with warp light, its surface boiling with unnatural storms that bent space like molten glass. Every astropath within a dozen sectors felt its presence. Most tried to block it out. Some clawed out their own eyes. A few listened and did not survive the knowing. But on a lonely watch station, drifting just beyond the anomaly's fringe, a single space marine stood unmoving before the viewing apertures, his armor scoured by centuries of war. Brother Arctes of the Iron Hands did not believe in omens. He believed in data, logic, the cold truth of machine and flesh. Yet even he felt the serpent's coil tightening across the void. The star was calling something into being, something vast. Something he had been ordered to observe, but not engage. And as the stellar storms parted like curtains, revealing shapes that were not ships but living silhouettes of iridescent flesh, Arctes realized this was no mere warp disturbance. This was a gathering, and Fulgrim's children were arriving. He recorded the phenomenon in silence, sending encrypted bursts toward Medusa. But deep within his augmentics, something trembled, an instinct from the part of him that was still human. For among the living shapes drifting around the star, he saw a form larger than the others, coiling with impossible grace. It moved like a dancer sculpted from liquid amethyst, every curve both beautiful and horrifying. Though Arctes could not hear sound through the void, his enhanced mind registered a rhythm pulsing from it, like the slow beating of a colossal diseased heart. Fulgrim, the name rose unbidden. The Phoenician had returned. And as the demon Primarch's shadow passed over the watch station, Arctes felt something inside his skull crack, a whisper slipping in like poison. Witness perfection. He forced the thought away with a snarl, rerouting neural pathways, purging corrupted data. But the whisper remained. It had not been a message. It had been a command. Far across the Imperium, on the shrine world of Melara's Gate, Loremaster Cassian Vale spread ancient parchment across an obsidian table. He had once been a scholar of the Administratum, a man of logic and faith, but his assignment to chronicle the histories of the traitor legions had taken him far from safety. Now his chamber was lit only by flickering candles and the pulsing glow of a sealed stasis coffer containing artifacts taken from a battlefield where the Emperor's children had last been sighted. The air around it tasted faintly of copper and incense, even when unopened. Cassian's hands trembled as he read a fragment older than the heresy itself, its script carved into thin plates of bone. The text spoke of a serpent of radiant agony, a being prophesied to reshape a star into a throne. It described rituals requiring the souls of 1,000 worlds, rituals led by a Primarch reborn in divine ecstasy. Cassian felt sweat bead down his neck. The prophecy was incomplete, yet one line was unmistakable. When the serpent coils, the symphony of final perfection shall begin. As he whispered the words aloud, the stasis coffer shuddered. A soft musical note chimed from inside, delicate as a plucked string. The sound should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like a razor drawn gently across his soul. Cassian stepped back, horrified. Whatever lay in that coffer was awakening. At the edge of the Great Rift, the Imperial cruiser Light of Terra's Wrath burned through the Empyrean with grim determination. Its captain, Alira Solane, had not slept in 6 days' sleep, was where the whispers found her. The navigators had already succumbed, their third eyes sealed shut by fear. Now they traveled blind, guided by machine spirits running on desperate, calculated guesses. The ship carried a single passenger of immeasurable importance, a custodian of the Emperor, encased in auramite armor that reflected the ship's internal lights like molten suns. He had given no name, only a destination, the unnamed star where warp anomalies converged. Captain Solan had witnessed battles that would break lesser souls, but even she felt dread in the custodian's presence. It was not fear of him, but fear of what it meant that he had left the Imperial Palace. Such warriors did not travel lightly. As she approached him on the bridge, she sensed his attention fixed far beyond the ship's hull. "The Phoenician stirs," he murmured, voice resonant like thunder in a cathedral. "And the Imperium cannot afford another Primarch's shadow." Solon swallowed hard. "My lord, if Fulgrim has truly returned in strength, what hope do we have?" The custodian turned slowly, eyes glowing behind his visor. "Hope is irrelevant. Only duty remains." In the depths of the warp anomaly, Fulgrim's hosts assembled, their armor shimmering with crystalline growths, their helmets sculpted into predatory visages. They moved as if in a dance, each step painting streaks of violet energy through the void. These were not the scattered, broken warbands of the past. This was a legion converging with purpose. At their center, suspended above the molten heart of the star, floated a structure that defied all mortal geometry. It resembled a chrysalis the size of a city, woven from flesh, crystal, and fragments of reality itself. Inside, something pulsed, something unfinished. Fulgrim coiled around it, his serpentine body shimmering with divine radiance. He whispered to the chrysalis with a tenderness that would have seemed almost genuine, if not for the monstrous hunger in his many eyes. "Soon," he hissed. "The masterpiece awakens." Around him, the Emperor's children knelt, rapturous, as waves of ecstasy and terror radiated outward like cosmic breath. Back on Malara's gate, the stasis coffer burst open with a thunderclap of psychic force. Cashin was thrown across the chamber, vision swimming as his ears rang. When he looked up, he found himself staring at an object unlike anything in Imperial archives. A feather impossibly large, its barbs shimmering with iridescent violet, floated above the shattered coffer. It drifted downward, slicing through the air with slow, elegant motion. As it touched the floor, the stone beneath it began to melt into liquid marble. Whispered voices rose from the molten pool, forming words Cashin could not comprehend. He scrambled backward, terror clawing through him. This was no relic of the Phoenix Legion. This was a piece of Fulgrim himself, a shard of his ascended form. The feather pulsed once, and Cashin felt his mind fill with visions. A star cocooned in living crystal, a serpentine god in triumph, and a chorus of 1 billion souls screaming in rapture. He collapsed, clutching his head. Fulgrim was preparing something world-ending. Brother Arches did what Iron Hands were never meant to do. He hesitated. Logic told him to withdraw, to survive long enough to deliver the intelligence he had gathered. But another instinct stirred within defiance, the shadow of Ferrus Manus, who had died by the Phoenician's hand. Arches activated the station's final sanction, a fusion core overload that would obliterate the platform and everything within range. If he could not stop Fulgrim, he could at least disrupt whatever he was building. With steady hands, he began the ritual sequence. But before the final glyph could be pressed, a ripple of light swept through the station, reality bent. Fulgrim's face appeared before him, vast and radiant, unfurling from the void like a blossoming flower. "My dear Iron Hands," the Primarch cooed. "Always trying to break what you cannot understand." Arches roared and slammed his fist onto the final glyph, but the console dissolved into liquid crystal beneath his hand. Fulgrim leaned closer. "Witness perfection," he whispered. And Arches screamed as his vision filled with endless color. Captain Solane received the Iron Hands distress signal seconds before it vanished. The custodian's posture stiffened. "We are out of time," he said. "Fulgrim is accelerating his work." Solane stared at the corrupted data streaming across the howleth shapes that resembled a chrysalis, a serpent, and a star being hollowed out from within. "My lord, what is he building?" The custodian's voice was barely above a whisper. "A weapon. Or a god. Perhaps both." He turned toward her fully. "Prepare for warp translation. We make for the star directly." The captain paled. To enter that anomaly was suicide. But she nodded, because humanity demanded sacrifices, and she had no illusions about the fate that awaited if Fulgrim succeeded. On the surface of Malara's gate, Cassian Vale stumbled into the cathedral sanctuary, clutching the iridescent feather wrapped in torn robes. He approached the altar, breath ragged. "Father," he gasped to the confessor, "send word to Terra. The Phoenician, he is creating something at the heart of a star." Before he could finish, the feather pulsed violently. A wave of psychic force erupted outward, throwing pews aside like toys. The confessor was hurled against a pillar. Cassian watched in horror as the cathedral walls began to twist, marble softening into pulsating organic patterns. Choir statues cried tears of pink crystal. The feather rose into the air, humming. Cassian dropped to his knees. He understood too late. The relic was not meant to be brought here. It was a beacon, and the signal had already been sent. Across the galaxy, Fulgrim raised his head abruptly, every coil of his enormous form shimmering. He felt the feather's awakening, sensed the cathedral transforming into a seat of his influence. It pleased him. "The chorus begins," he hissed. His golden eyes turned toward the chrysalis suspended above the star. It pulsed faster now, as if responding to the distant beacon. Fulgrim coiled around it possessively. Soon the galaxy will tremble before the symphony of final perfection. And far away, aboard the light of Terra's wrath, the custodian whispered a single chilling truth as the star filled the viewport like a blooming wound. "He is not building a weapon," he said. "He is building a god." The light of Terra's wrath tore through the anomaly like a blade carving into a living wound. Warp light coiled around the hull in threads of shimmering pink and gold, whispering hymns of impossible beauty that sought to burrow into human minds. Captain Solane kept her gaze locked forward, refusing to blink even as colors with no names bled across the void and twisted the viewport into a stained glass nightmare. The custodian stood unmoving beside her, a pillar of auramite and discipline, though faint tremors rippled through the golden filigree of his armor signs that even he felt the star's monstrous pull. As the ship pierced the final barrier of the anomaly, the view cleared for a heartbeat. Then they saw it, the chrysalis, vast as a fortress, glowing with a heartbeat that shook the soul. Solane's breath caught. The star was dying around it, collapsing inward, feeding the creation at its center. And somewhere within that shimmering prison of flesh, something alive was waiting to be born. Within the chrysalis, suspended in a cocoon of liquid iridescence, a shape stirred. It was humanoid, almost. 4 arms curled inward like petals around a forming torso. Its spine glowed with violet fire. Its skull was elongated, serpentine, yet carried the faintest suggestion of noble sculpted features. Fulgrim's masterpiece was no weapon. It was an heir, a successor. A being shaped in the demon Primarch's image, yet untouched by the flaws that scarred his own corrupted soul. Fulgrim circled the chrysalis with reverent grace, his voice a venomous lullaby that echoed through both matter and mind. "The galaxy denied me perfection," he whispered. "So I shall carve perfection into the galaxy." For a moment, in the shifting light, there was something almost human in his tone, grief buried beneath eons of excess. But then the star pulsed violently, and the gentle mask fell away, replaced by predatory hunger. The chrysalis was ripening. His chosen child, his divine instrument, was almost ready to awaken. Brother Arctes drifted somewhere between death and delirium. His body lay pinned beneath the warped remnants of the watch station, yet he felt none of it. His mind had been cracked open by Fulgrim's psychic caress. Kaleidoscopic visions danced across his consciousness, worlds reshaped into cathedrals of living marble, legions marching in perfect harmony, souls screaming in ecstasy as their forms twisted into art. But there were other visions too, buried beneath the demonic splendor. A memory of Ferrus Manus standing tall upon Istvan V, silver hands gleaming, eyes burning with contempt as Fulgrim approached him with hesitation. A hesitation born of love, regret, and the desperate hope that his brother might surrender. Arctes had never understood that moment, had called it weakness. But now he saw the truth. Fulgrim had not wanted to kill his brother. He had wanted to save him in the only twisted way he believed salvation possible. The realization cut deeper than any blade. Even in corruption, a Primarch's wounds ran deep. On Malara's gate, Cashin Vale staggered through the transforming cathedral as marble bled into flesh and stained glass dissolved into shimmering membranes. The feather had risen high above the altar, radiating psychic pressure that made the air vibrate. He clutched a data slate to his chest, its cracked screen displaying fragmented translations of the prophecy he had uncovered. The words rearranged themselves as he watched, forming new lines, new meanings. The symphony Fulgrim intended to unleash was not merely a ritual. It was a rewriting, a transformation of reality itself, sculpting the galaxy into a perfect, agonizing harmony. Cashin's knees buckled as the feather's glow intensified. Every instinct urged him to flee, but something in the cathedral's warped geometry whispered to him, beckoning him deeper. His mind raced. If Fulgrim's creation was born, if the symphony reached its final crescendo, countless worlds would be consumed. And yet, a question formed in the recesses of his mind. What if perfection could save? What if Fulgrim believed he was doing what the Emperor could not? Cashin recoiled from the thought, but it lingered. The custodian strode through the ship's main corridor, each step shaking dust from the vaulted ceilings. Crew members bowed instinctively, though most could not meet his gaze, for a faint shimmer danced around his form, evidence of psychic wards, pushed to their limits. He paused before a sealed chamber where a team of psychers knelt in prayer, their faces pale and sunken. They sensed the star ahead, sensed the being inside the chrysalis calling to them. The eldest psyker raised her trembling head. "My lord, there is a voice inside the star. It knows us." The custodian leaned closer. "What does it say?" Her lips quivered, as if compelled to repeat forbidden words. It says we are part of its design. That all souls are part of its design." A chill, even in his gene-forged heart, crept beneath the custodian's armor. This was no simple summon. Fulgrim's creation sought communion, a psychic rewriting of sentience on a galactic scale. The custodian closed his hand into a fist. "Prepare for battle." We breached the chrysalis. Deep within the warp anomaly, Emperor's children warbands drifted in perfect formation toward the chrysalis. Their armor sang with sonic resonance, sculpted by decades of excess into grotesque beauty. Yet among them floated one figure unlike the others. A champion with golden hair draped over a mask carved into the likeness of Fulgrim's face. His armor was adorned with mirrored plates reflecting 1,000 fractured realities. He carried a glaive shaped like a serpentine spine. His voice carried over vox channels in a gentle, soothing whisper that set nerves on fire. "Brothers, sisters, today we witness the rebirth of our legion's truest legacy." He spoke with devotion, but beneath his tone lay a tremor, a shadow of doubt buried deep. Something inside him, long suppressed, stirred like an old wound reopening. He remembered ancient loyalty, remembered a legion before corruption. He remembered pride without madness. As he gazed upon the chrysalis, that buried fragment of humanity shuddered. Back aboard the light of Terra's wrath, Captain Solane watched in horror as the star's surface fractured like cracking marble. Flashes of violet lightning arced across its corona, tearing reality in jagged lines. Her officers shouted reports, violent gravity fluctuations, impossible energy signatures, psychic pressure nearing lethal thresholds. But she saw only the chrysalis growing brighter, its silhouette pulsing like a beating heart. "My lord," she said quietly, "if the Primarch's creation emerges, can it be killed?" The custodian did not answer immediately. His golden helm turned slowly toward the viewport, reflecting the dying star. "Every being can be slain," he said at last. "But some deaths reshape the galaxy." Solane felt the deck sway beneath her feet, though the ship had not moved. A terrible certainty settled in her bones. Whatever emerged would not simply be another demon. It would be a new axis upon which fate itself turned. On the broken watch station, Arctes' eyes snapped open. The visions had stopped, leaving behind only echoes, but one truth burned brighter than all the others. Fulgrim was not only shaping a successor, he was shaping a counterpoint, a being meant to eclipse the Emperor's legacy. The chrysalis was not meant to destroy humanity. It was meant to change it, elevate it, perfect it. Through agony, through beauty, through unending sensory metamorphosis. In that revelation, Arctes felt his iron hand's discipline collapse like brittle stone. If Fulgrim's child emerged, humanity would face a choice more terrible than extinction. The demon Primarch was offering evolution, and some might accept it. His voice, cracked and raw, escaped his throat in a whisper. Even damnation can wear the mask of salvation. Cassian Vale knelt before the floating feather as the cathedral's walls shuddered. His data slate flickered, displaying a final line of prophecy he had not seen before. Only the fallen can unshape the perfect. He stared at it, numb. Did it refer to a traitor? A redeemed soul? Or something far worse, a Primarch broken by regret? As he raised his eyes, the feather split into two glowing shards, each drifting toward him like twin comets. The cathedral trembled violently, as if the star itself responded across the void. Cassian reached out a trembling hand. He knew he should turn away, but something in the shards beckoned to him: knowledge, power, truth. The moment his fingers brushed the light, his mind exploded with visions. He saw Fulgrim. He saw the chrysalis. And he saw something else, someone else approaching the star. A silhouette wreathed in golden fire. As the light of Terra's wrath descended into the chrysalis's gravitational pull, alarms blared across the bridge. The custodian braced himself as the ship shuddered violently. Captain Solane tried to steady her voice. "We're being drawn in." The custodian's eyes narrowed beneath his helm. "No, we're being invited." The chrysalis pulsed once, and a massive fissure tore open along its side, an entrance, carved as if by divine hand. Solane felt her blood freeze. The creation inside wanted them to come. It was intelligent, aware, and waiting. The custodian stepped forward, his golden spear igniting in radiant light. "Prepare for boarding," he commanded. "The unborn god wishes an audience." But then the twist came swift and merciless. The chrysalis trembled, its glow dimming for a heartbeat. A psychic scream tore across the anomaly, so powerful Solane felt her vision blur. The custodian staggered, a rare sight, terrible in its implications. Through the fissure, a shadow moved. Not Fulgrim, not his creation, something else. Something that had forced its way inside. The chrysalis began to fracture from within. Whatever was emerging now was not what Fulgrim intended. And as the star pulsed with blinding light, a single question echoed across the void, whispered by the warp itself. What happens when a god's masterpiece rejects its maker? The fissure in the chrysalis widened, pulsing with violet fire that bathed the light of Terra's wrath in an unholy glow. Captain Solane felt the ship shudder violently, as if the void itself resisted her intrusion. Through the viewport, she saw the interior of the cocoon, a city of flesh, crystal, and liquid light, twisting impossibly in 3 dimensions. Shapes moved inside, not quite human, not fully demon, all writhing in synchronized motion, as if performing some grotesque ballet choreographed across millennia. The custodian's hand gripped the golden spear tighter, knuckles whitening beneath the auramite gauntlets. "It is aware," he said quietly, almost to himself. Solane's stomach turned. Aware and waiting? The answer was a pulse of psychic pressure that nearly knocked her from her feet. A wave of thought and emotion so vast it seemed to fill the ship itself. Fulgrim's creation had rejected its isolation. It had sensed them. And in that moment, the line between predator and prey blurred. Within the chrysalis, Fulgrim coiled, watching his masterpiece shift and convulse. His eyes, golden and cold, reflected not triumph but confusion, a fleeting, human hesitation buried beneath eons of ambition. The formation he had nurtured, the creature he had poured his mind, soul, and artistry into, was evolving, not under his guidance, but by some instinct older than reason, older than the Primarch himself. The serpentine form arched toward the fissure, as if greeting the intruders. Fulgrim hissed, a sound of silk unraveling over jagged steel. "No," he whispered. "Not yet. Not like this." The chrysalis pulsed violently, and for a heartbeat, the star around it seemed to shudder, as though the universe itself feared the act about to unfold. The Emperor's children warbands surrounding the cocoon fell to their knees, faces hidden behind elaborate masks, chanting in ecstasy. But the cadence faltered. Even they felt it, the first tremors of a future not fully under their master's control. Arctes, pinned beneath twisted metal on the shattered station, fought through pain and fractured consciousness. The visions had returned, faster and more violent than before. He saw the chrysalis rupture from the inside, spilling light and shadow across the void. He saw worlds shattered by bursts of psychic resonance. He saw the Emperor's children, once noble in devotion, transformed into instruments of cosmic spectacle. And in the midst of it all, he saw Fulgrim, not the Primarch, but a god in tension with his own creation. A thought struck him, cold and lethal. Perhaps the Phoenician had always been incomplete, and this was the final test of his perfection. To survive, to witness the galaxy endure, Arctes would have to confront the possibility that salvation might come from the very madness he had sworn to oppose. Cashin Vale's cathedral was now fully alive, walls breathing and bending like the star itself had been mirrored across space. The feather's shards hovered above the altar, spinning in complex patterns that refracted the candlelight into shards of violet and gold. Each spin resonated through the psyches of the few remaining clergy, filling them with a dissonant symphony that was both awe-inspiring and soul-shattering. Cashin knelt, slate clutched to chest, trying to parse the meaning. Every line of prophecy he had uncovered hinted at a convergence. Primarch, creation, Emperor, chaos, all colliding in a crescendo that had been written before the stars even burned. And as he whispered the fragments aloud, the shards pulsed in response. Knowledge poured into him like molten metal, searing his mind with the understanding that what was about to unfold would not merely end lives, it would reshape reality itself. The custodian's steps echoed through the ship as the breach grew more violent. Solane clutched the command console as alarms flared and gravity fields fluctuated. Across the deck, the Psykers' bodies trembled, veins glowing with arcane energy as they tried to maintain control. The fissure now revealed glimpses of the chrysalis's inner heart, a glowing lattice of flesh and crystal, rhythmically pulsing, at once horrifying and exquisite. The golden figure of Fulgrim's child had emerged fully, its four arms extending like a symphony conductor preparing to orchestrate the universe. Eyes like molten amethyst scanned the ship. Its presence alone twisted the minds of those who observed, bending their thoughts toward awe, terror, and irresistible curiosity. The custodian whispered, voice low and unwavering, "This is not just a creation. It is a judgment." Far above, in orbit around Malara's gate, the feather's shards burst outward in a silent scream, emitting psychic waves that fractured reality in their immediate vicinity. Cashin's vision shattered and reformed repeatedly, showing him potential futures worlds reshaped in Fulgrim's image, the Imperium kneeling beneath a god-made symphony, or entire sectors obliterated in a single sweep of artistic perfection. His thoughts were frantic. Could this be stopped? Could the galaxy endure the ambition of a fallen Primarch? And then he glimpsed a truth more terrifying than death itself. Somewhere in the warp, the Chaos Gods stirred, their laughter distant but palpable, as if they had anticipated every step Fulgrim had taken. And yet, even they seemed to watch in suspense, uncertain of the outcome. Arctes forced his body to move, freeing himself from the wreckage with shattered ceramite and pain lancing through every joint. The fissure in the chrysalis seemed to reach across space now, connecting to every psychic echo he had felt in the past days. He understood this was not just a battle of weapons or warriors. It was a test of the soul. Fulgrim's creation was rewriting destiny in real time, folding the wills of all who approached into a tapestry of exquisite agony and enlightenment. And as he activated his servos to launch himself toward the breach, a thought struck him so sharply it nearly tore his consciousness apart. To fight it, to oppose it, may itself be part of the symphony. Inside the chrysalis, the child of Fulgrim stretched its forearms and exhaled a vibration that resonated across the void. Reality flickered and distant stars seemed to shiver. The Emperor's children, still kneeling in awe, shivered in unison, their devotion reaching a fever pitch. Fulgrim's face contorted, not in rage, but in fascination, horror, and longing. He had crafted this being to embody his ideals, to complete the perfection he had always sought, and now it was transcending even his understanding. His own reflection in the creature's molten eyes revealed a truth he could not deny. The student had outgrown the master. The irony was exquisite, painful, and thrilling. The light of Terra's wrath lurched as the anomaly's gravitational currents shifted violently, pulling the ship toward the chrysalis's heart. Solane's voice cracked as she shouted orders over the din of alarms. Bolters fired in automatic defense, carving arcs of tracer fire into the fissure's radiant walls, though nothing seemed to touch the shimmering flesh. The psychers channeled protective wards, weaving shields of psychic steel that strained under the pressure. And yet, with every surge, the chrysalis pulsed brighter, more insistently, as if encouraging them forward. It was a siren song of both doom and revelation, demanding that those who entered understand their place in the unfolding tapestry. Cashin Vale's cathedral quaked violently, spilling fragments of flesh-like stone and psychic energy into the air. The shards of the feather converged, forming a swirling vortex of radiant chaos. In that vortex, he glimpsed something entirely unexpected. A figure cloaked in shadow, separate from Fulgrim, observing, calculating, almost mournful. It was neither human nor demon, but somehow both an agent of prophecy, of judgment, perhaps even redemption. Its presence contradicted everything Cashin believed about the unfolding symphony. Could this being intervene? Could it oppose Fulgrim's vision? And if it did, would it save the Imperium or condemn it in new ways? The custodian's spear flared as the ship pierced the chrysalis's outer layers. Flesh parted around the hull like water, revealing corridors of twisting light and liquid crystal. Every step forward assaulted the senses. The weight of millennia, the echo of war, the perfume of decay and beauty intertwined. The psychers screamed as psychic resonance from the chrysalis assaulted their minds. Solane gritted her teeth, clinging to the bridge console. "We're almost there," she managed, her voice trembling with dread and anticipation. The custodian's helm tilted slightly. "There is no almost in the presence of a god in formation," he said. "Only witness and choice." Arctes launched himself toward the fissure, ceramite plating screaming under the stress. Around him, the void shimmered as if in anticipation. He glimpsed the chrysalis's heart, and the child of Fulgrim now stood fully formed, forearms extended, eyes glowing with molten purpose. And then the whispers began, not of the creature, not of Fulgrim, but of something older, deeper. A voice from the far reaches of the warp, echoing through Arctes, Solane, and Cashin simultaneously. All paths converge here. Choose wisely or be unmade. For the first time, the true weight of what had been unleashed pressed down upon them. Fulgrim's ambition, his vision of perfection, was no longer merely a threat. It was a test, a storm, a reckoning. And as the chrysalis pulsed in anticipation, a terrible unspoken truth crystallized. The galaxy was about to witness something that had never been intended for mortal eyes. And in the quiet, before the crescendo, one thought burned brighter than all else. The symphony is beginning, and no one is prepared for its finale. The chrysalis shuddered violently as the light of Terra's wrath penetrated its heart. The fissure widened, revealing a cathedral of flesh and crystal, illuminated from within by violet fire that burned without heat. Solane's fingers were white on the consoles as alarms screamed, the ship groaning under stress that no human vessel should endure. The custodian's spear ignited with golden light, cutting through the psychic resonance that sought to unravel minds. Silence followed. Not a calm, but a pause before the storm. The child of Fulgrim rose fully, its forearms extended, molten amethyst eyes scanning everything, consuming comprehension. It was vast, perfect, terrifying, and in its gaze, each intruder glimpsed a truth they could not unsee. Fulgrim had not simply sought perfection. He had sought dominion over the very essence of life, weaving the galaxy into his art. Beauty and horror collided, and the weight of millennia pressed on every soul present. Arctes struck first. His servos screamed, bolter fire igniting as he hurled himself through the fissure, landing among the undulating corridors of the chrysalis. Each step sent ripples through reality. Flesh walls pulsed, adjusting, protecting. The child turned slowly, its movement fluid, unnatural. Bolts struck its form, embedding into flesh crystal, yet it seemed to feel no pain. Instead, it shifted, arms elongating, claws slicing through space, and struck back. Arctes was flung across the hall, ceramite groaning, but he rose again, driven by something beyond duty. Fear for the galaxy, hatred for what Fulgrim had become, and the fragile hope that even in this, a spark of humanity might be found. Each clash of weapon on creature sent ripples of psychic agony through the void. The symphony had begun. Fulgrim emerged from the shadows, coiling with grace. His expression was unreadable, both father and predator. "You fight the inevitable," he whispered, voice like silk dragged over glass. "Perfection is not a choice. It is a revelation." His golden eyes passed over the custodian, Captain Solane, and Arctes. "All of you are threads in my tapestry." Yet even as he spoke, his own creation hesitated. A fracture within, subtle but undeniable. Fulgrim's gaze sharpened. "No!" he struck, a burst of warp energy curling like a living ribbon around the intruders. But the child moved independently, resisting, countering in ways the Primarch had not intended. Fulgrim's lips twitched, not a smile, but the barest twitch of realization. The master may no longer control the art. The custodian leapt forward, shield flaring to absorb the warp blast, spearing through the pulsing flesh of the chrysalis. Psychic screams tore across the void, the Emperor's children recoiling in awe and terror. Solane's command deck shuddered under the strain, but she held fast, firing lances of particle energy into the fissure. Reality itself fractured around the conflict, stars visible through walls of the cocoon as if space had been peeled away. The child of Fulgrim raised its forearms, conducting the chaos like a maestro, each movement twisting matter, bending light, shattering walls, yet not killing. Arctes realized with cold clarity, this was not a creature meant to die. It was a force meant to remake. Within the chrysalis, the battle became symphony. The child's voice not sound, but thought pierced the minds of all who approached. "Witness me," it said. And each heard what they feared most. Arctes saw the Great Crusade undone, legions falling to war not just of arms, but of art and obsession. Solana saw Terra ablaze, not in rebellion, but in creation, skyscrapers twisting like molten glass. Cassian Vale, in his cathedral, felt the psychic resonance strike across light years, the feather shards trembling violently. He realized the child's awakening connected not only to Fulgrim, but to the prophecies, to the very threads of fate written before humanity had taken its first steps among the stars. Fulgrim's own form shimmered with fury and fascination. He struck, landing amidst the living corridors, golden weapons lashing out, bending and splitting walls. But the child countered, a reflection of his intent yet independent. Each strike tore through ceramite, flesh, and crystal alike. Pain, ecstasy, fear all intertwined. For the first time in 10 millennia, Fulgrim felt the sting of inadequacy. His creation had surpassed him, not in power alone, but in will. The tragedy of a god realizing that his child might eclipse him in destiny played across his features. Rage and awe collided, and for a heartbeat, the Primarch's vanity was laid bare. Arctes found himself surrounded by writhing corridors, each pulse of the chrysalis reshaping the hallways. Walls turned to liquid crystal, floors melted into living lattice, and yet the child moved gracefully, impervious, executing movements that were both defensive and artistic, terrifying in precision. Arctes' bolter misfired, his servo-enhanced body strained, yet he pressed on. He understood now. They could not destroy this being. Not in the conventional sense. They could only survive, delay, or guide. And perhaps, just perhaps, survive meant surrendering control. Cassian Vale, in his cathedral, fell to his knees as the feather shards coalesced into a psychic beacon, linking his mind to the chrysalis. He saw Fulgrim and his child, intertwined across time, ambition, and obsession. He saw the echoes of betrayal, love, pride, and ruin folded into every pulse of light. And then he saw the galaxy itself, trembling as if holding its breath, a canvas awaiting the final stroke. The prophecy crystallized. Salvation and damnation were intertwined. Every choice, every act of defiance or devotion would be folded into this symphony of final perfection. And in that vision, Cassian understood the terrible beauty of Fulgrim's aim. A universe remade in both ecstasy and agony, a galaxy forced to confront the cost of its own imperfection. The child of Fulgrim now extended a single hand toward the intruders. Reality rippled around it, folding in on itself, creating corridors that led nowhere and everywhere at once. Its eyes molten pools of thought and light pierced the minds of the custodian, Solane, and Arctes. Each felt their own fears, their own regrets, their deepest desires laid bare. For a moment, the fight ceased, not because of truce, but because the weight of revelation made every weapon feel impotent. Fulgrim's voice whispered through the corridors, velvet and venom. "Behold, this is my legacy. This is my truth." And yet, in the creature's own gaze, he glimpsed autonomy, a will that had emerged beyond his control. The custodian surged forward, spear ignited, breaking the spell of frozen awe. Bolts of golden energy struck the child, and it recoiled, yet did not falter. Solane engaged every system, releasing a torrent of particle fire, lances slicing through warped flesh and crystal alike. Each explosion echoed through the chrysalis, sending psychic shockwaves that threw crew and psychers alike into spasms of agony. Arctes pressed forward, bolter blazing, ceramite scraping against corridors that flexed like sinew. And still, the child moved with grace, its every motion reshaping the battlefield into an ever-shifting tableau of horror and beauty. Fulgrim, desperate now, unleashed a surge of warp energy, a golden storm that licked through the corridors, tearing flesh and crystal apart. But even he realized with bitter clarity that this battle was no longer about domination. It was about comprehension. The child was not just a weapon, a masterpiece, or a reflection. It was something new, something terrifyingly alive. And in the revelation of his creation, the Primarch felt the sting of humility, of awe, of grief. For the first time, he was witness to a truth beyond ambition. He had built something greater than himself, something the galaxy could not yet understand. Cassian Vale's mind reeled. Through the psychic bond, he glimpsed the potential outcome. The child could either annihilate the Imperium or elevate it. His heart pounded. Could the Imperium endure the vision Fulgrim had wrought? Could humanity bear the weight of perfection crafted from obsession and horror? And in that instant, one thought pierced the veil of prophecy. Perhaps the galaxy's fate is not destruction, but transformation, and we are not yet ready to see the final symphony. The chrysalis pulsed violently, light and shadow intertwining in a cosmic crescendo. Solane gritted her teeth, realizing they had breached the heart of creation itself. Arctes' ceramite was scorched, bolter misfiring, yet he pressed on. The custodian stood at the forefront, spear ablaze, immovable. And Fulgrim, golden and terrible, watched his child rise in defiance and majesty. The symphony of final perfection was at its zenith. The battle, the revelation, the reckoning, they converged into a moment where time itself seemed suspended. Then, in a heartbeat, silence fell. Not the calm after a battle, something heavier, colder. The chrysalis pulsed once more. A single note, pure and resonant, echoed across space, the first sound of a universe reborn. And in that resonance, each participant understood, in gut and bone, the climax had come. Yet the final truth, Fulgrim's ultimate design, the fate of the Imperium, the destiny of every soul present, remained just beyond perception. The symphony paused, but the last movement had begun. The chrysalis lay fractured, light dimming as its walls collapsed inward, leaving only the residue of what had been a universe unto itself. Silence filled the void where chaos and beauty had once collided. The light of Terra's wrath drifted among the remnants, hull scorched, systems trembling, yet still intact. Captain Solana floated at the bridge console, hands trembling but unmoving, as if the weight of all she had witnessed pressed into her very bones. Around her, psychers shivered, some muttering prayers in languages long forgotten, others staring at nothing, eyes wide with visions that would haunt them forever. Octes, torn and battered, clutched what remained of his armor, ceramites scorched and twisted, yet his eyes, still human beneath the augmetics, held a clarity born of survival and revelation. The child of Fulgrim, now fully fledged, had vanished into the warp, leaving behind only echoes, a promise of things yet to come. The battle was over, but the consequences rippled across the galaxy. Fulgrim lingered at the edge of the collapsing chrysalis, coiled around himself like a golden serpent of thought and reflection. His eyes, once bright with pride and excess, now carried the shadow of understanding. He had sought perfection, had crafted a vision that could bend worlds to his aesthetic, and in doing so, he had glimpsed a truth more profound than triumph or failure, that even gods are bound by forces they cannot fully command. He gazed at the void of space, where stars flickered uncertainly, and a thought echoed in his mind, fragile and terrifying. Perfection is not ownership. It is the acknowledgement of imperfection in all things, even in oneself. And perhaps, the most exquisite cruelty lies not in creation or destruction, but in the knowledge that both are fleeting. Octes watched Fulgrim vanish, the Primarch's golden form folding into the currents of the warp like smoke in sunlight. The Iron Hands veteran felt a weight lift and press simultaneously, the burden of survival and the knowledge of a choice deferred. He realized that in the quiet aftermath, the galaxy itself seemed suspended in reflection. He had not slain a god, nor fully controlled what had emerged, yet he had survived long enough to witness a truth denied to millions. The Imperium was fragile, and its defenders were more than soldiers. They were the keepers of possibility, the witnesses to eternity's decisions. A sigh escaped him, but it was not relief. It was comprehension of a universe that demanded vigilance, even in its rarest calm. Cashin Vale knelt among the shattered remnants of his cathedral, feather shards scattered across the warped marble like fallen stars. He touched one, and it crumbled, leaving only the faintest trace of light. The psychic resonance that had bound him to the chrysalis faded, leaving silence that was both terrifying and comforting. He realized that what he had seen, the convergence of prophecy, Primarch ambition, and the child's awakening, was not simply history, but a mirror, a reflection of humanity's endless striving, its failures and triumphs inseparable from the shadow of the cosmos. And as he rose, older than he felt, he whispered a question to the empty vaults. If we endure, is it for ourselves or for the echoes we leave behind? The words lingered, unanswered, yet necessary. The light of Terra's wrath drifted through the aftermath of the shattered chrysalis, its corridors quiet except for the hum of still-functioning systems. Captain Solana gazed out the viewport, the ruined star behind the cocoon reflecting faintly on her visor. She had commanded vessels through battles that consumed worlds. Yet this This confrontation with a Primarch and the birth of something beyond comprehension had carved a hollow space within her soul. She wondered how many would remember this day, how many would even believe it had occurred. Perhaps none. Perhaps only the survivors carried the truth. And in that quiet moment, she understood the enormity of duty, not as orders followed, but as the courage to witness and endure in the face of a universe indifferent to human striving. The child of Fulgrim had vanished, but its echoes remained, drifting through the warp like a melody half remembered. The Emperor's children who had followed its emergence were scattered, some lost to madness, others silent with awe, yet all changed irreversibly. Fulgrim's ambition had not ended in victory or defeat, but in revelation, that the desire to perfect the universe, to mold it into beauty or agony, could never be fully satisfied. The galaxy was not his canvas. It was an audience bound to witness the imperfection inherent in all things. And somewhere, deep in the warp, his child would continue, a living proof of ambition and autonomy intertwined, a presence both terrifying and magnificent. Arctes floated among the wreckage of the station, surveying the carnage and ruins with a solemn clarity. He had survived, yes, but survival had come at a cost. Knowledge of forces and truths that no man or machine was meant to comprehend. The Primarch had not been destroyed, nor had his creation been stopped, yet the balance had shifted. He understood now that duty was not measured in victory alone, but in bearing the weight of what one had seen. The universe demanded both action and witness, and sometimes the greatest courage lay in the refusal to look away. His gaze moved to the stars beyond, black, infinite, and beautiful in their indifference. Cashin Vale ascended the steps of his cathedral's ruined altar, each movement deliberate, as though marking the passage of memory itself. The shards of the feather had left impressions upon his mind, fragments of knowledge and warning interwoven with hope. He understood finally that prophecy did not dictate the future, it illuminated paths. Fulgrim's symphony had begun, but it was not complete. The echoes of perfection and imperfection would continue to collide across the stars, shaping choices, shaping souls. And for all that had passed, one question remained in Cashin's heart, unanswerable but essential. Does humanity endure because of its strength, or in spite of its failings? The light of Terra's wrath powered slowly through the remnants of the anomaly, systems straining yet functional. Solane watched as the void stretched endlessly beyond the ship, the stars distant, patient witnesses to what had occurred. She could not forget the molten eyes, the cathedral of flesh, the terrible beauty of Fulgrim's child. Yet she also saw the custodian, silent and resolute, embodying the constancy of duty amid chaos. She realized that even in the grim darkness, even when confronted with godlike ambition and forces beyond comprehension, the human soul and the soldiers who carried it remained the pivot upon which the galaxy turned. Arctes, Cashin, Solane, and even the shadows of Fulgrim's ambition all bore witness to the quiet aftermath. The chrysalis, the child, the shattered star all had vanished into memory and the warp's endless currents. And yet, the consequences lingered. The galaxy had glimpsed its own fragility, its potential, its tragedy. Fulgrim's vision, terrifying and exquisite, remained a warning. Perfection is a pursuit that demands witnesses, and those who endure it carry the weight of eternity. The silence that followed was not peace. It was understanding. The camera might pull back from Arctes standing alone on the station's skeletal hull, the remnants of the chrysalis floating like dead stars in the distance. Cashin's figure ascends the ruined altar, hands raised in quiet prayer. Solane remains at the bridge, hands on controls, gaze fixed on the distant, infinite stars. And for a moment, the galaxy breathes, not relief, but reflection. The war continues, the Imperium endures, yet every soul present knows that some truths are too vast to fully comprehend, that the cost of survival is eternal vigilance, and that perfection, like the warp, is beautiful, terrible, and unreachable. A final thought lingers in the silence. If we are defined by what we fight to preserve, Can we survive knowing what we have lost? And beneath that, a whisper. Perhaps the greatest legacy is not victory, but witness. The void stretches on, indifferent, infinite, and eternal, and humanity's fragile light continues to shine brilliant, defiant, and haunted.